So yeah, welcome to Tennis Sucks. Here we are on empty courts of Crescent Lake.
Unheard of.
Yeah, recording on the court with the empty ones behind us. Yeah, it's like we're on tennis courts.
The only thing that sucks more than tennis is hurricanes.
For us,
Helene and Milton.
Milton's on its way. It's gonna blow us up.
Yep.
This might be the last look at Crescent Lake right here.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, take it in now.
Thank God I got that tattoo of the tower. You don't remember it.
That's funny. So yeah, today's Monday. We just wrapped up the PPA Virginia Beach. Do you guys want to just do a quick recap of that and start things off with that?
Sure. Yeah, the PPA followed the MLP Challenger event. Interesting venue, more of like a big park, but for the most part, the status quo stayed the same. Anna Lee, Triple Crown again. She's ridiculous. Like, I wish I could hit a backhand like her, especially the drip. Like, it's just, she seems like she has the ball on a string. Ben won singles and mixed, beating JW and Georgia in the final. Hunter Johnson, another great week, making final. And then Hayden Patriquin and Federico Staxrud remain unbeaten. Second tournament they've won. And I think it's hard to make the argument, at least in my opinion, that there's a better player than Hayden in men's doubles playing left and right. He wins on both. And I've never seen anything like it. Federico, they would return up the middle, and Federico would leave the ball for him, and he would hit a two-handed backhand roll drop. Like, usually the guy with the forehand takes it, didn't touch it, leave it alone. Same thing dinking. Hayden would like straddle the middle and dink with his two-y. He's just so fucking dynamic. It's crazy. Like, to me, watching, he was so far and away the best player. It was like, I want to be this guy when I grow up.
Any chance the Johns are going to break up soon?
It's been ongoing
They were
conspiracy.
bitching a lot. Did you see how much
I'm
they were
telling
getting
you, they're
on each other?
unhappy.
Well,
I think
Colin finally fought back in the match against Hunter and Deckel. There was like 4 times where you could see Ben like, "What are you doing?" And finally he was like, "Shut the fuck up." Obviously, I don't know the exact words they were saying, but that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
Like, he'd taken it, and it was like, "All right, enough. Fuck you."
Yeah.
So no, I don't know. I mean, that's possible, but I think unlikely.
Hayden and Ben Johns.
Hayden needs to play with Gabe Tardio. End of story.
Yeah.
If they don't, they'd be the most exciting team to watch. Dynamic, fun. They're both kind of young, vibrant, a little bit dumb, obviously, because they're young.
And they're on the same MLP team.
Yeah, and they're just the 2 most creative players that are out there right now. It would be crazy to watch. I mean, they would put people on skates.
Yeah. So there was a little bit of controversy with Ben and Colin. There was the first one, which was Lightgate. What can you tell us a little bit about that?
No Lightgate.
No Lightgate, I should say.
God, this one really pisses me off. So I'm going to start with this. I'm going to put myself in the mix here. Augie Guh and I are playing Eric Onsens and DJ Young. They put us on around 5. Extremely overcast, very dark. There's 3 rows of courts. The front row has courts. The middle row, for whatever reason, the lights aren't going on. And the back row has courts. We are on the courts with no lights. In the first game, I say, "Can you please turn on the lights?" We're trying. Second game, again, "Can you please turn on the lights?" Augie is struggling to see. I am struggling to see. And at the end of game 2, we say, "We're not playing until the lights go on. We can't see." We argue. We sit there for 15 minutes. Finally, DJ doesn't want to move, which I don't blame him. It was better for him. He's probably seeing the ball better than my old ass and Augie, who I think wears contacts. And we're walking to the court, because there's like 10 lit courts in the back, and then are quickly told that we can't move because we are trying to stall and change the momentum. Like, first of all, the insinuation is insulting. Secondly, that makes no sense. We just want a lit court. If you put us on these courts, then you put us here because the lights were supposed to turn on. They're not turning on, so move us. Kind of common sense to me. But I think that, we're in a stage right now with the officiating, with professionalism, where PPA is still a startup and they're finding their footing. But this was an extremely unprofessional, biased decision by a referee who I don't want to name. And ultimately, I felt like we were treated unfairly, got fucked over. Jessie actually was playing almost directly after us, but earlier because it was another court. And she asked to move because she couldn't see during her warm-up. They agreed to move her. So it didn't make any sense to me. Anyway, following that, we felt that it was unjust. And then I'm watching the Ben Johns Colin Johns match. They're down 8-3 game 2 after winning game 1. All the lights are on. It looks fine to me. There's a packed house. I'm watching on my TV like I'm sure many other people are. and all of a sudden they say, we can't play. We're going to get hit. It's dangerous. We're down 8-3, but hey, we'll forfeit game 2, and let's wake up tomorrow and play game 3. And somehow the referee was just like, yep, great idea. Let's get out of here. So, you know, I don't think he's like doing this intentionally, but these are the kinds of things that you need to write new rules and have protocols in place. This shit doesn't happen. Like the analogy I use is, could you imagine that Sinner was playing Alcaraz, best of 5. They're a set all, third set. Sinner's down 5-2. It's getting a little dark. He's like, hey, you take the set. Can't see. We'll continue tomorrow. First of all, for gambling, that can't happen because now the spread is all off. So we just look like a rinky-dink peewee event. And then certainly you have 2 guys who have direct ties to the largest names in the sport from an executive perspective. And it makes you wonder, like, does anyone else get away with that? Would they do that for anybody else? My guess is no. And again, they had 2 matches after that to follow. Anna Lee was one of them. She didn't look happy. They'd been playing on those courts all week. Riley played on the court the day before. I asked him how it was. He's fine. So it was just like, this is fucking bullshit. And then to make it worse, the next day, Hunter and Deckel come out and they get pickled to game 3. They decided to not let them forfeit the game, by the way. So they played it from down 8-3, lost 3 points really quick, and then pickle game 3.
Talk about a momentum change.
Yeah, talk about it. Exactly. That changed momentum a lot more. So, like, where does it end? Does it say, hey, it's too windy, it's making my back hurt, let's start tomorrow? I can't see because I got some dust in my eye, let's start tomorrow. Like, I just don't grasp it. It makes no sense.
Definitely a lot of favoritism, but people know this, you know, for certain players, even for, I feel like, our event in general. And I don't know if you want to speak on this, but I feel like that Major League Pickleball event, which took place right before the PPA at the same location, just didn't have the same staffing, didn't have the same marketing or attempt to get the same amount of fans. It just felt like, okay, let's get this MLP event over with so we can start preparing for the PPA that's coming. And, you know, like you said, I'd like to see more volunteers out there helping. I'd like to see them, you know, like one of them was, we had an 8:30 match. And I tell all the players, hey, they don't want to be up early, but we get up early. We get there at 7:30 to warm up, and the courts are still wet. And by 8 o'clock, we're not even really attempting to dry these courts off. And I'm thinking, this is crazy. I haven't been to one of our events where we know we have an 8:30 start time, that the crew's not here an hour or 2 in advance drying these courts off and getting them ready for an 8:30 start time on stream. And it just wasn't happening until it's 9 o'clock, and we're saying, what's going on? We need to play. This is getting pushed back, and, you know, we find one person with a blower to come try to blow these courts off for the next hour. And so,
I think we got on like an hour and 15 minutes late. When it finally, maybe an hour and a half.
To me, that's crazy. If you're running a professional sport, whether it's MLP or PPA, and, you know, my gut tells me that if that was a PPA event, those courts would have been dry by 8 a.m., not by 10 a.m., because you know you have an 8:30 start time. I just think that there's not as much care overall, and like you're saying, makes us feel rinky-dink.
Yeah, it makes it feel like peewee soccer or something. And, you know, I think something can be said for volunteers. Every event that we go to, there should be some way for volunteers to sign up that is maybe a little bit more common or known knowledge for local pickleballers. Because if I think of every tennis challenger I played, every ATP event, even Grand Slams, you know, they have volunteers left and right who love to talk tennis. You know, maybe it's the guy who drives you at the US Open and he just wants to talk for 5 minutes to you about your training regimen or who you've played. So it would be great to see a larger volunteer list, and hopefully in the future that happens. But yeah,
they have volunteers. It's just small, right?
Exactly,
it's
like small.
A couple people watching the gates.
Right.
Couple people, I don't know, picking up trash, but you could do a lot more with it. Because I know the volunteers would show up. I mean, I held a local event here 2 years ago. I think I had 30 or 40 volunteers, and they asked me. I didn't even reach out. This is for a 200-person local, you know, local Bardmore event, and I had, I think, 40 or 50 volunteers. They were out there like crews drying the court. It rained every day. Right. They were there at 6 a.m. drying the courts for me, volunteers, and were happy to do it because they love pickleball. I can't imagine what they would do for the PPA or for Major League Pickleball.
And to be diplomatic here, look, the PPA does do a shit ton of work to get their events ready. They bus everything from site to site across the country. They do bust their ass to make it happen. But certainly, again, it's a startup, and these rules need to be set in place. These protocols need to improve, and hopefully, you know, in the near future, we won't have such kind of bullshit scenarios where it does feel like we're not playing a real sport. And you know, I won't mention the name again because I don't want to get him in trouble, but someone that I'm close to on the tour was just like, I thought this was a real sport, it feels, again, like putt-putt.
The other thing I don't get is why don't we talked about this before, like a year ago. Why are we doing 30, 35 events a year? It doesn't seem like it's good for anything. The one thing I can think it's good for is you're making a lot of money on the people trying to qualify and the amateurs. Right. Okay, fine. Let that be separate events somewhere else. But for the pros, let's make them less frequent so it's less wear and tear and less travel on the pros because that's a problem.
Yes.
And let's make it so we have more time to market so that on a Thursday, if we're going to hold events on Thursday, we can still fill the stands. Like I feel like rushing week to week, doing very little marketing of these events because we're just trying to get them done.
Right.
That it's like...
And making 12 like really big ones instead would be awesome.
Way better.
Way better.
And for so many different things. A better draw, the pros would be happier.
Right. And more motivated.
More motivated. I don't know, all around it seems like it makes sense. And I think that by having all these tournaments, like the Virginia Beach tournament, it hurts the product a little bit.
It does. I agree.
I think that it's the opposite. You're trying to grow the product, and I get it, you're making money off of amateurs, but then just have amateur events. Don't have that be out there in the public on stream or fans coming to watch where they then go out in the community and say, it was kind of run a little rinky-dink. Yeah, it's like, we don't want that. That's not a good word of mouth for our product.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think it's tough because their business model just gets money from those, but short-term over long-term doesn't always work. Generally doesn't work. And so, maybe invest in 12 larger events. But I think they're going to make steps in that direction starting next year. An MLP season that's 3 months. I'd like to see that a little longer, but then maybe fewer PPA events to follow. And maybe that's a better system. Maybe they're going to work it out and figure it out with time.
I think we're at 5 months. We expanded it a little bit.
That'd be great.
April through August.
Okay.
Is what the season's looking like for Major League Pickleball next year.
Awesome.
On a counterpoint to the favoritism, I suppose, in the favor of the PPA, they did call out Ben and Colin on not verbally asking for a timeout. I don't know if you saw that.
See, that's something I don't think it's not subjective. You either do it or you don't, and they'd been warning people all week that you have to make a visual, so if they're not doing it, you can't let that slide.
Was there a culture of people just walking off then? Has that been a thing?
Well, that's what people have done always. Like, that's their move, and now they're just saying you have to make a visual
that's
or audible.
That's a silly rule. Is that needed?
I don't know the point of it.
I think the refs can figure it out.
I'm sure there's a
people
reason
walk
for
off.
it.
I don't think anyone's going to serve while this is happening. All right.
So they have to verbally and visually do it now?
No, I think it's one or the other.
Oh, okay.
But you have to indicate clearly that, hey, I'm taking a timeout.
I don't
know the point.
The players have to do like a YMCA timeout.
Maybe there should be like some exact.
I think if they see him walking off the court, the ref asks him taking a timeout, they're probably going to acknowledge it. I feel like that's enough. We need a rule for that. That I don't understand.
Yeah.
That's a little.
Let's
excessive.
get to can we talk Rachel Rohrbacher, Anna Bright match yet?
For sure. Let's do it.
Fucking A. Did you watch that?
I couldn't find it for rewatch. But
what am I gonna do with this guy?
Man,
did I read best match
Did I read a lot of comments about the best match ever?
Yeah.
It was the best match I've ever watched. Like, I've never been one that's like, oh, the women's doubles is more exciting. It was so fucking exciting.
You know which one I went and watched? Against Mari Humberg, and I was like, man, that match was so good, I'm going to go watch their next match. And it was just beating 3 straight games. I'm like, what happened? What happened in these great matches?
Yeah.
So you mean Humberg and Georgia? So that wasn't 3 straight games. That was 2 straight games.
Or 2 straight games, yeah.
A beating. Yeah.
I'm like, all right, it's going to be another great game.
Georgia and Mari are always going to be hot and cold, and they were cold that day.
Yeah.
When they're hot, they're great. But yeah, anyway, back to the main event, which had a ton of drama. Undoubtedly the best match I've ever seen. Tyra was awesome. Like, I didn't even know she was that good, but either she's improved a ton or played out of her mind. Usually her drop is sus, her dinking average, and obviously great mover, great hand speed, but she was so solid, dominating the court, looked like the best player on the court to me. And I want to say the game from like 9-all till the end probably lasted 30 minutes in the third game. It was so long. There were so many side outs, so many match points saved. Crazy. And not saved off like fluff or bullshit. They were great points over and over. All the girls were competing fantastically. I like watching Elise. You can't not like watching her. She's just a little beast and super competitive. And she had a bad ending to the match, which kind of sucked. But the one part we have to talk about is this rule. So you get 3 challenges, and if those challenges run out, you can no longer challenge. That was the initial rule basically in the NFL. And then they realized, hey, when it's coming down to the wire, we need to make sure we get the calls right. So they put in the 2-minute rule. Anything within 2 minutes can be reviewed by the refs, like every call. And I want to say it was 11-10 for Anna and Rachel, and 10-11-1, I believe, Tyra and Elise serving. And Tyra hit a perfect flick that landed square on the line. I've already been getting flack for this because people are like, oh, you call everyone out. Look, Anna and Rachel do not cheat. I've watched them many, many times. I've played them. They give me calls, if anything. They missed the call. They missed it. So I don't call people cheaters, let's just be really clear, because they miss one call by an inch. I call people cheaters when they miss calls by 6 inches regularly, and it's very obvious that they fucking cheat. These girls didn't cheat. They missed the call. But the other girls didn't have a challenge. So a perfect ball struck in an amazing match to get to an 11-11 was taken away and obviously had an impact on the outcome of the match. So then it's like, do you reshape the rule? Do you say the same thing? After 8 or after 9 in game 3, every call can be reviewed by the ref, because it takes 10 seconds. We've got great tech now with the line. Show it up on the board. It's good. Next. It's not like it has to take 3 minutes. We don't have to walk out to the center of the court after review. Like, we don't need to do that anyway. Stupid. It doesn't need to be that big of a fucking deal. So
it's only in game 3 you would propose it, or
No,
at the end of any game?
I think at the end of any game.
If both teams are above the, 9?
Yes. Or, yeah, like I think it's 8. Like if it's 8-8 or further along.
Okay, but like 10-2.
Nah, fucking let it slide.
Let it slide.
Let it slide.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know a scenario like that. It happened to us at MLP.
Well, they do that already, actually, 10-2. 10-2, you can't lose the match like on a
call.
challenge or something.
Yeah,
right? Like they can challenge it, but if they're wrong, they lose a point.
But what if you're out of
But I'm
challenges?
saying, I think you can. I don't think you can. I don't think you can lose the last point. I think.
Okay.
Fucking, I don't know the rule,
Yeah.
but that sounds right.
Well, because you're saying that you were at 10-2
yeah,
in
go.
a match
What
in
do you
MLP?
No, how we were up 24-14 in a dream breaker against the
yes.
Slice.
Yes.
And this is at Virginia Beach.
Okay.
We're up 24-14. We
Like
hit it.
that day.
We Donald Young hits this, obviously he's killing it in singles. Hits this great
It's killing
winner.
it everywhere.
He's cheering as the ball's probably, it's like almost about to hit the signs. He gives it a good, what did he say?
No, so he hit a pass and Monroe like reached for it and it floated up. So he was running forward and he hits it. After he hits it, the ball hits Monroe's paddle, and basically as it goes off Monroe's paddle, that's so big, like that.
Yeah.
And it's over. It had no impact. Monroe knows it has no impact. Brendan doesn't want to challenge it.
But it's at 24-14 on top of it.
So we're
They
tap
won-
paddles. They're pissed because we've been talking shit the whole time. I'm walking off the court. I'm getting yelled at, and I'm like, "Fuck you," Anyway,
They want a
hey,
hindrance call.
you got to come back.
Yeah.
Right.
They're saying hindrance on a game winner at
Right.
24-14. And so it is the rule. They go back and check it, but they end up not giving it to him,
Right.
which I think was the right call. I think
course
they
it's the right
took
call.
some discretion and said, hey, we don't want this to become culture where
Yeah.
people are, because they're cheering and they're up 10 points,
Right.
that we're suddenly going to
Sure.
give them another shot at match
Well,
point.
it wasn't 24-14. It was 20-14. It was only 21 to.
Oh, 20-14, right. And then we won 21-13 because they lost a point for challenging that got
Oh, really? I didn't know
overturned.
that.
Yeah, we got another. We got another point there.
Got it. Yeah, when Donald came in, I think it was 18-14. In my head, I was like, "This is over. I can sit. I'm done." I was ready to relax. And sure enough, he went point. I was like,
Nice.
But I think
My man.
overall the calls were a lot more fair. I
very good.
think that you calling people out is making people not do things. This is my take, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like now when we play people in matches like the Black Bears or Chicago, whoever, I think they're much more careful about, and the Hard Eights did this too, about what they call, because they're fearful of the social pressure afterwards that we're going to give them for what they're doing.
that's probably a part of it, but I think it's honestly the cameras mostly.
And the
now are
cameras.
so accurate, you
Yeah.
really can't get away with a bad call.
That's the other thing. The cameras are helping out a lot with calls. Like, not just actually making the call, but having people make bad calls. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think now in their mind, they're like, well, that's going to get caught
Yeah.
on camera. I don't want that to get caught.
How did with those cameras too? They're putting them on the video board on championship court, right?
They
like they show the
didn't.
replay.
They did for the PPAs if you challenge it. So like again, going back to the
Yeah.
Tyra one, they didn't put it up on the board because they didn't have challenges. But I thought that would be so fucking cool if you don't have challenges, but hey, look.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
the crowd would be like, oh.
That's what I was
and then
wondering,
we get some drama
yeah.
going. Like that would be great.
Yeah.
No matter what, they should show it. If it's a
Yeah.
close call, they should just put it up on the board.
Agreed.
And then
right
it puts
away.
the pressure on the other team to be like, do you stand by the call?
Right? Do you
Like,
stand by the
yeah.
call? Exactly. All right. Hey, your point. Like
Yeah.
that's good drama.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree.
That's
But they didn't
wild.
do that for MLP.
No, they didn't.
They weren't showing the replays because I would have to pull up my phone and watch on the stream to see replays.
There was also a pretty good match. Newman was battling it out in, I think it was a mixed match, and he like
Oh,
they were
they got like 10 match
10,
points.
yeah, yeah.
I didn't get to watch, but that was the Alshon. What's her name? CP.
Catherine
Parento.
Parento.
Yeah,
Drew a blank.
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And
he
he
and
was
Jackie
playing with Jade.
Kawamoto.
Yeah, yeah.
Jackie, not
Jackie.
Jade.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of wild. What a comeback.
I mean, it looks like Riley's back playing really well. I think the paddles helped him a ton. He switched to a much more powerful paddle. In fact, almost every Pro XR player was now using that paddle. Zane commented on how good it was, and it's.
But
apparently-
Donald tried it out and he didn't love it.
No, but that's not the one.
Oh, the
It's a,
Bantam?
it's a newer one.
Oh, it's like one that's not out yet.
Yeah, and you know, we might have grabbed the wrong one because they do have a softer one. That wasn't the one Julian was using, and Julian was firmer. So there is a softer Bantam or whatever, and then there's like another Tempest or something that's firmer. So we didn't fucking know. We were just grabbing one.
Yeah, I didn't know.
I know,
kept
no, neither
asking.
did I. I have no idea. We were guessing. It was a panic scenario. So just to put some context on that, you know, Donald Young, who's on our team now, has been improving at a very rapid clip, and he was using the Proton Series 3, which he loves. Every single one passed in New York City, and somehow we get to Virginia Beach, and he has 7 paddles fail before the first match. So we are obviously panicking, and I walk in and actually say, like, this doesn't make sense. You must have calibrated the machine incorrectly. No, we didn't. But they did. And so ultimately, Donald had to play with a paddle that we bought at Pickleball Central. He played with the Paddle Tech in the men's dubs, and then the PIKKL, the Pickle Vanguard in the mixed, and controlled that better. But was obviously guessing with his feel. Why wouldn't he be? It's totally different. And it really put a dampener, at least for me, because I played with him the day before in practice. He was playing so fucking good, and then you could tell he was questioning everything. And I just thought, man, we're here for 7 matches. Now, my partner's gonna fucking suck. He can't even do what he was doing. And long story short, when the match was over, we get a text, hey, by the way, there was something wrong with the machine. Something wrong with the machine, come on in. And now his paddles pass, and then we won 4 men's matches in a row and started playing very well. And
Was that just an issue with his paddles, or did it affect
No, a lot
other
of people's
players?
paddles, apparently.
It affected, I know, a lot of
A
the
lot
cell
of engages,
kirks, a lot of
some cell
engages,
kirks,
Yeah.
some
of the
Yolas even.
And it was which part of the test were they failing?
Deflection.
Deflection.
But it was only his paddle in our match
Yes.
against that team that morning that we got crushed by.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was because, Donald was feeling uncomfortable, which
Yeah.
makes your teammates uncomfortable.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and
Well, it was more like a depression type thing. Like, I thought we were going to come in here and really build on what we did in New York City, and now he's going to be thinking about how to get used to this instead of just playing.
Yeah. Did you not have paddles that you could have given him, like
The paddle that I use is he just doesn't like it as much. He doesn't prefer it.
Oh,
So
okay.
he'd hit with it, and then I thought that the paddle tech that we got him would be more comparable, but it wasn't.
Damn, that sucks. Yeah. So, and you were going around buying paddles from Graham, I think you said?
yeah, speaking of which, Donald, I need that paddle back if you're not going to use
I
it.
gave it to him. I gave it to you.
Not now. He didn't like it. That's like $200.
But I'm saying, I thought he gave it back to you.
No, he didn't.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he does that. He steals my paddles, too. Son of
I
a
need
bitch.
that back ASAP. But yeah,
Not cool, Donald.
I ran around. I just said, what's the closest thing we can find to what he's playing?
And we guessed.
And it's the one that everyone loves, that paddle tech. So we tried to run out and
yeah, but I
grab
think
it,
it
but I
was the
grabbed
wrong
the wrong
paddle
one.
tech, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's wild. So, on other MLP kind of news, obviously we had the newly final waiver period or trading period. There was supposed to be one right before the playoffs, and I now think that this is the final one. So this is the team.
they're saying it's the final one and no more trades
Right.
for the rest of the year.
So
I think there should be another personally after Miami,
I
but
think so, too.
we're not involved in those decisions. We should be. We need to get on the competition committee.
You would be good at that. Just make sure you run things by me.
Yeah, you're very smart, Graham. You gave a lot of advice even to the pro testing labs, didn't you? Didn't you give them some
Pickle labs?
suggestions?
I did a ton.
Oh,
I
did
just
you?
fucked that. That guy wasn't there the day that we were complaining. I was in there for like 2 hours.
That sounds about right.
And then he came the next day. He like flew in.
Yeah, Gary.
I had to see if we
Gary's
could get
cool.
our, I had to get our
Gary's great.
paddles.
And he was apologetic. He knew it was an error and it happened. You know, it just sucks that it cost us a match.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that one of the ones that I was impressed by, you said, why don't you bring a control paddle, like a brand new paddle to every event that you test to set to calibrate.
precedent.
Not just one. I think one of every
single paddle.
Every single
Yes.
paddle.
Yep.
Right? Have one of all the ones the pros play. It's not that many.
That's a very
Pros
good
only
idea.
pay like maybe 20 paddles total.
Sure.
Maybe. Yeah, brand new. Just test them at every site. It seems like very logical.
Yeah.
And if there's some big difference amongst all the paddles from one site to the next, then you can calibrate your machines for that. And so
Smart.
I feel like that would be an
logic generally isn't your strong suit.
an
But that's
easy
a very
fix.
good one.
Oh, logic is my only strong suit.
Okay, well, we can go that way too.
That's awesome. So yeah, so I guess then the biggest trade, I don't know if this is a surprise to people or not, but Utah waived, actually I forget who they waived, but they picked up Jeannie Bouchard, which obviously not a premier player. Do you think that this is a smart move for Utah, or do you think it's a stupid decision?
Yes.
Pardo loves cashing those checks. Yeah, they were out of playoff contention already. It draws some attention to their team, and you get some cash.
I was going to pick up Jeannie for Travis had they not got her.
Okay.
Wanted to get more exposure.
I'm okay with
Nice.
that.
More exposure in the
Yeah.
I
in
think she's
social
improving.
media.
She's doing good. She's playing a lot. She's actually in Fort Myers playing now.
Nice.
Speaking
know.
of people that improved, and this is back to Tyra Banks. Do you think that
Tyra Banks?
Sorry, Tyra Black.
Damn.
Do you think that
I
Do you
know
think-
your childhood crush was.
I was a big fan.
Yeah,
do you think that
likewise.
Tyra Black is getting better in doubles because she's not doing as much in singles?
No, I think she's getting better in doubles because she's in the mix of that South Florida crew, and every fucking player in that crew is improving rapidly.
So the person I was telling you to watch, and I think you agree with me, is Chris Hayworth.
Yeah.
His improvement in doubles is enormous, and the reason he's saying is because he's only specifically focusing on
He
doubles
practices
now.
doubles exclusively, he says. He
Yeah.
plays singles very rarely. And yes, definitely huge improvement from him there. I think that was definitely Donald and I's worst match, mine in particular, by far the worst I played. But he had a part to do with that. He's got a very tough two-handed backhand roller cross court, and I strategically played it wrong. And in
But
that
he's
format, it's
improved.
so fast.
He's
Oh, yeah.
improved a ton. He's a
He's-
player I would hold on to. The Black Bears got somebody good there.
Yeah, I think so too. And he performed incredibly well in the Dream Breaker. It was the first person to beat Donald in a Dream Breaker. And
He had some funky paddle too. What was that thing?
the Babolat. But he used a thicker one for doubles and he used the
Thinner one for singles.
For singles, yep.
That thing was pretty hot though. It seemed like.
Yes, very.
Yeah.
Very. I know he wasted up really heavy too, but he's got incredible passing shots. He's a very good player.
But yeah, I thought that was a noticeable difference. Somebody knew he was practicing a lot because he's way better than the last time I saw him play doubles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Smash had options to pick up people. I think it was Eric. Oh, it was Ericina that
Yeah,
was
Ericina
available.
Jeannie
dropped.
Arikina.
Yes.
I mean, there was a lot of aces picked up Coop, which was huge. I mean, that's just an enormous pull for
What about
them.
in Dream Breakers? Does she hold up in Dream
Fuck
Breakers?
yeah, she's good, dude.
She's good?
She's good.
Hmm.
Again, her backhand pass is money.
Yeah.
But you know, I just think of her in front of almost every single girl, not every single one, but the majority of the girls in Challenger. She's gonna eat them up. She's just gonna
Agreed.
go speed up off the backhand, and next ball's popped.
Agreed,
So-
but she's not going to see a lot of balls. I mean, in mix she will, but I'm guessing they're going to probably sit on,
No, she's
on
not.
lane
But she's
again.
gonna play left, and she's gonna pinch middle hard. She's gonna get balls.
Yeah.
And Lane, I mean, Lane's not a bad partner for her because Lane just doesn't miss. She doesn't really do much, but she doesn't miss.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then what was the other? There were some other ones, weren't there?
No, that was all
that was
kind
it?
of one trade.
Okay.
It was like 3 trades, but it ended up being
Well,
basically
on the Premier side, though, Megan Fudge was traded for Paris Todd, which I thought was interesting. Not Megan Fudge, sorry, Megan Dizone.
Megan D zone.
Yep.
Yeah, that was because I mean Paris has been playing great. So even I think Megan was a little surprised by that one. I don't know if there was anything else.
Do you think it's surprising that Arikina didn't get picked up at all, knowing the women that are
Purely on
Challenger?
level, yes. I mean, I've heard mixed reviews. Like some people have told me they played her and she played terrible. I thought against us, especially in the mix when she played with French, I thought she played great. She was very stable, very solid.
pretty good in singles too?
Yeah, pretty good.
She's long and comes at the net
Yeah,
quick.
no, I think she's definitely more than competent and more than deserving of being a challenger player. So a surprising drop with no pickup.
yeah, agreed.
I guess it seems to me then that the definitions of the challenger women is just about consistency, like who plays consistency.
Yeah, to some extent, like that
Yeah.
that can win because the girls just make so many more errors. But you know, in the same breath, like Martina's hyper aggressive, not as consistent, but that can work as well.
Sure.
You really have to get into those upper level premier girls to see girls who can be hyper offensive and be consistent
Yeah.
at the same time.
Right.
It's very rare.
Yeah.
I'd say there's 5 to 6 girls that I've seen that can really do it.
Yeah. And so you all feeling good about the current format going into the playoffs then?
We have a very slim chance at this point of making the playoffs, which is my fault. I fucked up in DC, switching to a paddle the day before, and I was terrible. But, you know, can't look back at that. Like, we've been building momentum. I thought we played well in New York. I thought we got better in Virginia Beach, other than the last day, whether I got fatigued or what. I just didn't feel the same way that I was feeling. And, you know, watching Donald improve is really, really enjoyable. I thought the girls competed very well and got a couple wins. Mixed, we seem to be doing pretty well. So,
Yeah.
you know, we're making strides. We're doing the best we can given the circumstance, and that's all.
From a point standpoint, is Miami the last shot then? Like that's,
Yes.
you got to really
we have
crush
4
it in
matches
Miami.
there, and we got to like basically run it.
Yeah.
We have a shot, but we've got to
It's
do
like-
really well
Yeah.
against good
Probably
teams.
have to win 3 of the matches
Yeah.
and 2 outright, I would say.
I mean, at least you should have a lot of support from Florida, Miami, right? So hopefully that might
That'd be
might
nice.
help.
Well, hopefully we can get a group from here to come up and rage a little bit.
Yeah. Bring your friends, Luke.
You should bring the 30 volunteers you've got in your back pocket.
Yeah, we should. I don't know how rowdy they are, these volunteers, but yeah.
Just really well organized.
I'm sure we could
Yeah.
dose them up, you know, give them a couple beers and they'd be fine.
That's funny. All right, so then other news that just came out was a press release from the UPAA. They've announced their paddle testing sort of regulations, I guess, for 2025. I can go through some of those highlights, but it's essentially a spin rate of 2,200 RPM.
Which is pretty high. That's a good revolution.
Pretty high. And then the deflection force, 42 pounds, compared to the current, which is 46 pounds.
Which I think is also very poppy. So they've set parameters, but those are good paddles. I mean, that's the paddles we're using now. Nothing's going to change.
I think that's about
That's a Yola. That's a Yola mod
it. No, I think that's like a 3S, but
or 3S. It's very close.
very comparable.
So you think
You could
that,
probably sneak some mods in there.
so you think that this is not them trying to make any drastic moves on the
I think they're just
Super
trying to keep it
paddles.
from getting worse,
yeah.
which it could. It could get worse. That 007 seemed like it could. It's not going to pass that test, but I maybe I'm wrong.
No, a couple of them did. A couple of the 10s passed. Jack's using it next week. That'll be interesting. He's going to literally pelt people from 6 feet behind the kitchen line.
Yeah, that paddle's hot.
Yeah.
You saw
Ridiculous.
Schick hitting it.
It's ridiculous. And then he ended up playing like the 14 one because he couldn't control the 10. But I think the only way that they're going to draw it back a bunch is when someone unfortunately gets darted in the eye from close range and they lose an eye or have a serious injury. And it has to happen on a TV court where you're like, oh shit, this is not good. So that's probably close with these. With that 007, the new Selkirk, fucking thing is so lively.
Which is funny because they put out a statement about not loving these really hot paddles. Then they come out with the hottest paddle we've seen in a while.
Well,
Yeah.
I think finally they're just like, all right, fuck it. You know, if you're not going to draw it back, then game on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense for companies. It's definitely going to have to be either UPAA or USA Pickleball combined that set the regulation, right?
Right.
Yeah. No one. Yeah. Financially, it doesn't make sense to not compete. But yeah, and then there's the $20,000 fee as of next year for anyone that wants to get approved. Does that seem?
I think there's more
Reasonable?
to it than that from what I was told, but maybe is it just $20K flat for the whole year just to be a paddle?
I
Or
think
do you
that,
pay
yeah,
monthly on top of it?
I don't think so. I think it is just 20K.
That's very
yeah.
reasonable in my opinion.
I mean, far less than the 100,000 we were anticipating, plus per paddle or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah, I mean these
No, that's fine.
companies are making millions,
20K and shit.
multi-millions. They can handle the
doesn't
20K
sound right
per
to me.
paddle.
There's got to be something else there.
No, I think it's a
Think it
lot
is?
higher than USAP. USAP they just upped their prices in August, which I found out recently. They're at $2,100 basically a
Okay.
paddle per year.
Yeah.
Actually, that's like forever. You don't even have to renew that after 1 year. So
I
they're
mean-
at $2,100. So $20,000 a year is a significant. It's
USA
tenfold.
Pickleball have like the numbers game though. Like they're approving any
'Cause it's all
Joe
for the
Schmo's
amateurs.
paddle, right? That, yeah.
yeah, they're
So-
doing thousands.
Right. But I suppose PPA and MLP have the problem of having to move that equipment all around the country, and I don't know. I
And
guess
it's also
that's
just
why.
for pros for the most part.
It's just
so
for pros.
Yeah, right.
Far less.
Yeah, interesting. And you've sent some paddles off to get it tested, right?
USAP.
USA
Oh,
Pickleball?
for the interim PPA,
I don't know,
MLP?
yeah,
no,
you-
just USAP
just USA
recently.
Pickleball.
Graham's 16 millimeter dwell is
It's nice.
It's
Yeah.
nice.
I just
It's
gotta
funny that the 14 hits less than the 16.
Yeah,
16's got more juice.
Something new I learned. Yeah. It has to do with dwell time. It sounds.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like
No,
I'm
dwell
making
time's
this up, but
critical.
it has to do with dwell time. So we're starting to learn with these new paddles. Before, when you had a paddle, the thinner it got, the poppier it was. That's not the case anymore.
No.
The way the paddles are made now, because of this trampolining effect or propulsion core, if you want to call it that, is the thicker the paddle gets, the more propulsion, the longer the ball sits in there, the more revolutions you get and the more power you get.
It's just like tennis. The more you loosen the strings, the more power you get, the more rotation you get. Stays on the strings longer.
Yeah.
So it's literally they're taking the exact same concept and just somehow applying it to carbon fiber with foam.
Yeah.
And I thought that was against the rules as I originally read them, but it doesn't seem so.
Yeah.
Hey, just let us make our paddles, okay?
All right, man. When Barbara gets hit in the eye,
Yeah.
Barbara, hopefully she's not using a dwell.
she's not coming to spa.
Yeah. That's funny. And then I also read recently that the actual texture of the paddle doesn't even affect the spin, and
I
it's
heard
actually
that.
the
It does, but it's minor.
Minor?
Minimal,
It's
yeah, that's
minimal
insane.
effect.
It's like it's just got to be like purely coefficient of friction, how long that ball stays on the paddle. That's
right.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Crazy.
It has
Which-
mostly to do with how long the ball stays
Yeah.
on the paddle, which has to do with dwell time again.
Yeah. And that's how is that how tennis balls get their spin too? Because they're getting gripped more by the
Yeah, so the looser you string your racket, the more you'll actually see like the strings go that direction when you hit.
Yep.
And then they'll hold on the strings
Right.
and they rotate within the string bed and then
Yeah.
they trampoline off.
Interesting.
And if it's a tight strings, if you string it 65 pounds or something, it looks like a board.
Yeah. So do you think that if I don't know, this is my theory, that if the trampoline effect gets bigger, like people are able to get that dwell time longer, that can change the way that people hold their paddles because they can generate more spin like a tennis player. They can hold it more like a tennis player.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you can strike it much more similarly to a tennis swing, which I think has already happened. Even as carbon fiber was originally introduced, Ben Johns told me that he was a full continental because you really couldn't get spin. And then when carbon fiber came out, he moved more towards an Eastern because now you could rotate the ball.
Right.
That would happen more. You would see guys go towards semi-Western, full Western, rotating the shit out of the ball. So sure, that'll obviously change things.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to see, we're probably giving too many secrets away to all these paddle companies, is the sweet spot getting higher, I think will make a difference.
Well,
I
Yola's
think-
is huge.
I think the higher you can get that sweet spot, the better.
You mean up on the paddle?
Up on the paddle.
Oh, but see, the thing about the Yola that's unique is the whole thing's a sweet spot.
Yeah, that's just, it has to do with the amount of foam.
Okay.
Yeah, the more foam you have, the bigger the sweet spot feels. Because now even when you hit it on the edge, you're hitting foam, which bounces, so it feels like a sweet spot, right?
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So you're leaving today, Travis.
I
You're
am.
missing the hurricane, which is good for you.
Yeah.
Where are you headed and who are you playing with?
Vegas PPA, I was planning to leave Wednesday. That is no longer happening, unfortunately. So right back on the road, I'm playing with Zane Navratil.
Nice.
Nice.
And then in mixed, I'm playing with Arina Tiroshenko.
Oh, wow.
So
That's a
play with the
first-time
old goat.
partnership?
Yep. I do like Arina a lot, though. She's cool.
Same.
And yeah, Zane always has been one of my favorite partners. Hopefully I can play better than I did with him the last few outings. That was on me, not him, and which he constantly reminds me of. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Nice. That's cool. Sweet. And then we've got only a few weeks. Is it weeks or a month before Miami?
The
now?
24th.
24th
Of
to
this
27th.
month?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can we, before we go, talk about Michael Lloyd, too?
Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
tell the
Michael
story.
Lloyd's on our... What list would you put him on now because of this?
I like Michael
The
Lloyd.
hilarious list? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like Michael Lloyd. I just thought it was funny.
Luke, did we tell you the story about Michael?
You briefly did, but I'd love to hear it.
So
I think you find this funnier than it is, but that's okay.
I think it's great.
You love it. Go ahead.
We get a car rental, or Travis does.
Attempt to.
Attempt to. While we're on the plane, they apparently call us and say they don't have enough rentals. So it's the whole Seinfeld thing of, you know how to take the reservation.
Well, it's because I booked through Orbitz. So Orbitz is the third party. They send it to them, and then the guy tells them
That's your first
we don't have
mistake.
cars. And
So we're like in the middle of like kind of nowhere, Virginia Beach. I don't even know where we are. There's no one there. It's just us and this clerk thing. He doesn't have any cars. And we're like, all right, what do we do now? In walks Michael Lloyd. Hey guys, what's going on? Walks up to the counter. For some reason,
car in 10 seconds.
gets a car in 10 seconds. It's a big old SUV, just him. I don't even think he has any luggage. He's like got a backpack on. So Travis and I are just sitting across the chairs having a conversation like, man, what are we going to do about not having a car?
Yeah, how are we
How
going
do
to
you
the site?
How do we get to the venue? If only we had like a really big SUV that we could hop in and get to the venue, be awesome. Over and over and over again
Damn.
while Michael Lloyd is checking out.
And you played against him that day or the next day?
But he
No, it was
just
a couple days later.
he just turns around and says to the group, he's like,
No, we said something like, maybe we get a Tesla or a Cybertruck. Maybe we get a Cybertruck because we were looking at Verbo. And he just turns around and goes, big Tesla guy, huh? And then walks out
And then
because
leaves.
of my Tesla story with all the shit falling off the back.
no care whatsoever.
Nope,
Just left
see you
us
later,
all
guys.
there
Oh
to
my
fend for
God.
ourselves.
But then we
That's
got lucky.
crazy.
Somebody walked in early, gave their car back, and the guy gave us a car, and we were fine.
Wow.
So it was all good, Lloyd. But hey, let me tell you, if you are stuck in the rain and I see you at a bus stop, I'm driving right by you.
I'm driving in the puddle to make sure it covers
Yeah,
him
yeah.
while he's at
And then
the
when I
bus
go
stop.
by, big bus guy, huh? Enjoy that bus.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Damn. So you're down a paddle. You almost were down a car. Virginia Beach wasn't good to you, Graham. I don't think, huh?
No, Virginia Beach wasn't bad. I just wish there was more crowd. It was nice.
Yeah.
One thing they did do is they had 2 elementary schools right next to the venue. And for PE class, they brought all elementary kids over to the venue on center court, and they'd all walk in, like maybe 30, 40 of them, and watch the match and go crazy. And then they play the music. They're all dancing.
That's
They
awesome.
were
were
loving
great. It was like 90% black kids too, and every time Donald got all hyped,
Nice.
They were loving Donald.
they were loving DY.
That's great.
But they had a great time, and it made everything better. So just even little things like that, like let's figure out how we can get even free tickets. If we can't sell
Yeah.
out Thursday,
Exactly.
It's
give them
better to
away
have
locally,
energy on
give
the
them to
court.
schools.
Yeah.
Let the fans come and see
Yep.
this product that we're
Exactly.
putting out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's important.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's cool. Well, I'm excited. It's going to be fun. I'm excited for the Smash to play in the home turf again. It's been a
Yeah,
while.
Miami will be a good one.
Yeah.
For sure.
Cool. All right. That's it. Unless you guys have any last minute thoughts.
Tennis sucks. Pray for us. Pray for St. Pete. Pray for Crescent Lake Pickleball.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.